Good Friday morning, and it is Friday the 14th, and today is the first round of the playoffs. So I have on my Red Devil attire because I'll be heading to Thompson today to watch our Red Devils take on the Thompson High School. I think they're the Bulldogs. Won't hold me against it. Don't hold it against me if I don't remember. If you remember a few weeks back when I started doing the download, I said there will be times when we would still bring you Fireside Chat, and today is one of those days because earlier this week on Wednesday, the state released our CCRPI scores for the year, and I just want to take a minute to talk to you about it. Now, I will be looking down some today because I have my my notes in front of me because I don't want to misspeak, and I don't want to tell you a number that's not true. So I apologize for not looking directly at you the whole time I'm talking, but there will be times when I have to look down. Really, I want to first review kind of the components of CCRPI. And of course, CCRPI stands for College and Career Readiness Performance Index. And this was created several years ago to be a way to determine whether or not our schools are preparing students for colleges and careers. Now, somewhere along the line, the state legislature decided that they wanted to use this as a grading system. And so there is a 100-point score. That 100-point score is now not provided to us from the Department of Education, but from the Governor's Office of Student Achievement. The last thing I'm going to talk about today is that score. So just know we haven't been given that score yet. So the score that I give is going to be a predicted score, but the predicted score, I've talked to somebody at the Department of Ed, at Governor's Office of Student Achievement, and we feel like that it's going to be fairly close. So that being said, the components of CCRPI are content mastery, which is how the students performed on the state test, the milestone test that we're given at the end of the year. Progress, which would be how all the kids in the state that scored one thing last year scored this year. Okay, and then you get a progress score by what percentile you're in. Closing the gaps would be looking at some subgroup data, all kids as well as individual subgroups. And then readiness is how you're prepared for next year. And now this is the one component that doesn't deal directly with the state test. Now it does have the component of reading at grade level, but then you've got attendance and then your fine arts and beyond the core type of thing. Then at the high school, they throw in graduation. The reason I told you the GOSA score, and we'll talk about it, like I said, more at the end, is they weight each of these components and then give you a scale score of 1 to 100. And unfortunately, that's what the state has decided to determine whether or not a school is a successful school or not. But that's neither here nor there. We're not going to dive into that. I just really want to come to you today and tell you our scores and really celebrate. I always start by, I don't want anybody to think I'm like Eeyore off of the old Winnie the Pooh movies, but Winnie the Pooh cartoons, but we're not where we need to be yet. But I am extremely, extremely proud of the work that has gone into the improvement of the scores. And like I said, it's pretty exciting to see our kindergartners that we started. The kindergartners that started this whole transformation haven't made it to third grade yet. So we don't really know the full effect of all of our changes and our new initiatives. But as everybody's moving up, we're still seeing growth. And I think that the major growth is still here to come. But anyway, let's dive into these numbers and all of this will be, I actually did a press release yesterday, and so it will eventually be in the paper, but it's probably already online, so you can get these numbers. You don't have to write them down, I guess is what I'm saying. They'll be published for you, and they'll be on our website. But let's start. I'm going to purposely not start with Daltrey because I want to really celebrate them in a minute. But let's talk about our Jackson Elementary School scores. Our Jackson Elementary School content mastery, they increased by 6.6%. Their progress scores, they increased by 28.7% at Jackson Elementary. Very proud of that. And then their readiness score increased by 3.2%. Now, closing the gap, which is the fourth component, and I'm not going to say this at every time on every school, but our closing the gap numbers, they can't compare last year's to this year's because last year's they did not give us math numbers. So it's kind of a new number. So even in the state calculations, when the state releases their information, they're not going to compare these two. But I do want you to realize that Jackson Elementary School had a closing the gap score of 93.8%. So that means that just in very simple terms, that means that 93.8% of the subgroups had met the growth target or grew. So we're excited about those numbers at Jackson Elementary School, and we're going to be even more excited when I talk to you about a single score in just a second. Stark Elementary School, they held steady in content mastery. They had a progress increase of 18.5. Their readiness score went down just a little bit, but they're still at 83, at 83.1, which is the second highest of all the elementary schools and in Jackson, in Butts County. And then their closing the gap was 53.1. Henderson Middle School, they had a content mastery score of that increased by 4.3%, a progress score that increased by 4.7%, and their readiness score went down a little bit, a half a percentage point. But they had a readiness, overall readiness of 79.8, and their closing the gap was 66.7. Jackson High School, their content mastery went up 2.6%, and their readiness went up 2.6%. Their progress went down a little bit to 83%, and then their graduation rate went down to 86.3%. But we started an initiative. I want to take a minute here. We started an initiative a few years ago. We had a real high graduation rate, and we wanted to make sure that our graduation rate and our content mastery were kind of in line. In other words, we wanted the diploma from Jackson High School to have value. And so in that, we're holding the kids to the fire a little bit harder. And if we've got discipline issues, we're not gonna deal with discipline issues long term. And so that affects that rate a little bit. But we are still at 86.3%. So I don't want you to think that we've dropped down below the Mendoza line. We're still at 86.7%. And then our closing the gaps at 67.5. Anytime that I have told you that the school is in a growth area or has grown, we actually grew more than the state did. So, and I don't have those numbers in front of me right now. But let's just say in progress, I told you Jackson Elementary School was at 28.7% growth in progress. The state growth in progress, I think, was 3%. So they really, really outgrew. I'm really proud of that school. But now, I told you I was going to save Daltrey for last, and that's because I'm going to use them to segue into the single district score, which remember, I'm going to give you the percentages, but the GOSA has not sent the numbers to us yet. So this is based on my percentages using GOSA's figures. But Daltrey's content mastery went up 8.7% to a 69.8, which is above the state average score. Their progress went up 6.1% to 99.4, which is above the state average. Their readiness went up to 1.9% to 84.4, which is above the state average. And then their closing the gap was 100. So 100% of their subgroups met their target. So that being said, all of Daltrey Elementary School is above state average, and that's the first time since I've been in Butts County, and really the first time that I can find In looking back, I know since they changed the test in 2018 that we've had a school that was above state average in all categories. So extremely proud of Daltrey and the work that's going on over there. Everybody's working hard. Everybody's working hard across the district, but you're starting to see some of that come to light at Daltrey. Now, I told you I would use this to transition into the single score. The single score, CCRPI, is when you weight each of these categories, and so the single score at elementary and middle school, progress actually weighs more than content mastery. Content mastery is 30%, progress is 35%. Then you get down and the closing the gaps and readiness has a smaller percentage. Now, when you get to the high school, content mastery is 30 and progress is 30 because they throw graduation rate in there to take those 5 points and redistribute it. So, but Daltrey, if you take Daltrey's single score this year, taking all the weights of each component and adding them together, they have a single score of 87.6. And that is the reason that I mentioned that, and I'm so proud of that, is that's the first time in all the research that I've done, which goes back even before 2017, but that's the first time we've had a school have a single score in the 80s. And so very proud of the work there. Henderson Middle School single score is 74.7, which is up from 71.6 last year. Jackson Elementary School single score is 74.19, which is up from 61.7 last year. But folks, this is the score that got Jackson Elementary on that promise school list, which makes them look like that they're not a successful school. But in 2023, their single score was 50.3. They've come up 23 points in 2 years. And that's a tribute to the hard work and the dedication of the teachers, making sure that they're finding the kids where they are and they're pushing them. And they're growing more than just a grade level a year. So they've got a monumental task ahead of them, and they're stepping up and they're meeting that task. So very proud of the work going on at Jackson Elementary School. Jackson High School went up from a single score of 71.1 to 72.8, and Stark Elementary School went from a 69.7 to a 70.4. This is in 2018. Every school in the district was in the 60s. Every school in the district was in the 60s in 2018. And then, of course, in the 2020s to 2022, we didn't have scores because of COVID. So we picked back up in 2023, and we were kind of half. 2 schools in the 60s, 2 schools in the 70s, and 1 in the 50s. But now in 2025, every school we've got in the district is in the 70s, except for Daltrey, who is in the 80s and well into the 80s. So the work we're doing is working. We're in the trenches doing the work, and it doesn't. There's not a switch that you can flip to make these scores increase. If there was, that's what I'd be out there selling that switch. But we don't have that. So we have to get into the trenches and we have to do the work at school. And we have to overcome things that some other schools don't. And some other schools have to overcome things that we don't. But we're very proud of the work that's going into it. Proud of the scores this year. I told you when we began that this is where we want to be. We're going to keep pushing. We're going to keep our foot on the throttle and keep moving forward. Keep really pushing the envelope in our classrooms. I do want to mention that our school single score, based on the Brentlow calculations, because GOSA hadn't sent them out yet, is 74.5, which is up 10 points from the 2018 score, or right at 10 points from 65.2. Right at 9.3 points. You don't get precise, but anyway, we went from In 2023, we're at 68.5. Last year, we were at 70.6, and this year we're at 74.5. So, community know that the work that we're doing in the classrooms, they're working. And as we see our new initiative of Leader in Me take off, I really think you're going to see a really big push. Our teachers are looking at data. They're caring about the kids. They know what the kids need, and we're trying to find ways throughout the day to provide it without having to rely on sending it home to get it addressed. But teachers, I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. Don't think it doesn't go unseen. And I know that you're out of your comfort zone, and there's some time that you probably want to throw your hands up. Don't. Get through it, get over the mountain, and you'll see that as we get into this new way, quote unquote, new way of teaching, administrators, keep doing what you're doing. Take the distractions away from teachers, but then make sure that they're fulfilling your vision and my vision of moving forward. With all that being said, this was probably longer than most people have watched, but I hope you have stayed till the end. We're coming back to you live next week with a it's not necessarily live, I just don't edit them. Coming back to you live with the down low next week. But anyway, I hope everybody has a great weekend, and look forward to seeing you in Thompson, Georgia tonight to watch our Red Devils play the first round of playoffs. Thank you.